Love seldom haunts the breast where learning lies, and Venus sets ere Mercury can rise. Alexander Pope. Greetings, mortals, and a top of the morning to you all. I am your host, Simeon, and you are tuning in to the Library of Gnosis. In Greek mythology, Hermaphroditus was a child of Aphrodite and Hermes. According to Ovid, he was born a remarkably beautiful boy who caught the attention of the naiad Salmosis, who attempted to force herself upon him and prayed to be united with him forever. A god, in answer to her prayer, merged their two forms into one and transformed him into a hermaphrodite, he being considered the origin of the name. His name is a compound of his parents' names, Hermes and Aphrodite. He was one of the Erotes. Hermaphroditus, the two-sexed child of Aphrodite and Hermes, Venus and Mercury, had long been a symbol of androgyny or effeminacy, and was portrayed in Greco-Roman art as a female figure with male genitals. Theophrastus' account also suggests a link between Hermaphroditus and the institution of marriage. The reference to the fourth day of the month is telling. This is the luckiest day to have a wedding, and also so happens to be the number of Hermes. The fourth day of the week is also in the middle of the week, the point of balance. Hermaphroditus' association with marriage seems to have been that, by embodying both masculine and feminine qualities, he symbolized the coming together of men and women in sacred union. Another factor linking Hermaphroditus to weddings was his parents' role in protecting and blessing brides. All three of these gods figure largely among erotic and fertility figures. All possesses distinctly sexual overtones. Sometimes Hermaphroditus is also referred to as Aphroditus. Ovid's account relates that Hermaphroditus was nursed by naiads in the caves of Mount Ida, a sacred mountain in Phrygia, present-day Turkey. At the age of 15, he grew bored with his surroundings and traveled to the cities of Lycia and Caria. It was in the woods of Caria, near Halikarnassus, modern Bodrum, Turkey, that he encountered the nymph Salmosis in her pool. She was overcome by lust for the boy, who was very beautiful but still young, and tried to flirt with him, but was rejected. When he thought she had left, Hermaphroditus undressed and entered the waters of the empty pool. Salmosis sprang out from behind a tree and jumped into the pool. She wrapped herself around the youth, forcibly kissing him and touching his breast. While he struggled, she called out to the gods that they should never part. Her wish was granted, and their bodies blended into one form, a creature of both sexes. Hermaphroditus prayed to Hermes and Aphrodite that anyone else who bathed in the pool would be similarly transformed, and his wish was granted. I personally wonder if this has anything to do with the legendary Fountain of Youth, as the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, relating to the great work of squaring the circle, was said to grant immortality and eternal youth. Diodorus Siculus, in his work The Library of History, mentions that some say that Hermaphroditus is a god and appears at certain times among men. But there are some who declare that such creatures of two sexes are monstrosities, and coming rarely into the world, as they do have the quality of presaging the future, sometimes for evil, and sometimes for good. I find it interesting that it is the woman representing the passions that overcomes and forces itself on the boy, or intellect, in this story. I somehow want to equate this to how emotions can easily overtake our rational mind. In the myth, the nymph's overpowering passion might symbolize the dominance of raw emotion, while Hermaphroditus' initial resistance reflects the detachment and independence of intellect. The resulting androgynous form represents a balanced integration of these forces, transcending duality. So for those of you that have never heard my hypothesis about Mercury, I will just briefly summarize it. Johannes Kepler saw the heavens as a mirror of the scriptures. He imagined the orbits of the planets as the sun, the space in between the Holy Spirit, and the Son as the Father. I imagined the planet Mercury as being the Sun, if the Father is our Sun. Among, for instance, the Knights Templar, the planet Venus is associated with Sophia from Gnostic thought. And Venus is of course the second closest planet to the Sun, while Mercury is the closest. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother, and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Genesis 2:24. In the Western mystery traditions, Venus and Mars aren't opposites. The two pairs are Venus and Mercury. Emotions, body knowledge, versus logic, head knowledge. And Mars and Jupiter. Restriction, discipline, destruction, versus expansion, generosity, and mercy. At least according to braidedway.org. But I would argue that the attributes of restriction, discipline, and destruction better align with Saturn rather than Mars. But that is neither here nor there. Let us move on. So if Mercury and Venus become alchemically married inside of us, we advance towards the light of enlightenment that is represented by our central sun. And we become the hermaphrodite that is the combination of the anima and animus. The union of Venus and Mercury represents a key alchemical process. The integration of anima, the feminine aspect within men, and animus, the masculine aspect within women, as defined by Carl Jung. This inner reconciliation leads to the emergence of the divine child, or hermaphrodite, which symbolizes transcendence and spiritual enlightenment. This synthesis reflects a balance, not only in our psyche, but also in life practices. Venus, associated with pleasure, relationships, and creativity, must harmonize with Mercury, linked to communication, analysis, and reasoning, to create a unified, holistic self. In such a state, we transcend mere dualities and achieve a balanced, enlightened perspective. We square the circle inside of us, balancing the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. In alchemy, the union of opposites, symbolized by Mercury and Venus, is a central theme. Venus embodies the emotional, sensual, and aesthetic aspects of human experience, while Mercury represents reason, communication, and adaptability. Their alchemical marriage signifies the reconciliation of body and mind, emotion and logic, to achieve the magnum opus, or great work. The rebus, from the Latin res bina, meaning dual or double matter, is the end product of the alchemical magnum opus, or great work. After one has gone through the stages of putrefaction and purification, separating opposing qualities, those qualities are united once more in what is sometimes described as the divine hermaphrodite, a reconciliation of spirit and matter, a being of both male and female qualities, as indicated by the male and female head within a single body. The sun and moon corresponded to the male and female halves, just as the Red King and the White Queen are similarly associated. The Filius Philosophorum was one of the Jungian archetypes analyzed by the Swiss psychologist. The Filius Philosophorum, Latin for philosopher's child, i.e., made by the true students of philosophy, is a symbol in alchemy. In some texts, it is equated with the philosopher's stone, lapis philosophorum, but in others, it assumes its own symbolic meanings. Other terms for the Filius Philosophorum include Filius Sapientiae, child of wisdom, Infans Noster, our child, Infans Solaris, sun-child, Infans Lunaris, moon-child, and Infans Solaris Lunaris, sun-moon-child. There are several images that have been used to represent the Filius Philosophorum. Among these are the transformed hermaphroditic Hermes, the child of the Red King, and the White Queen, the sun and moon, the child of the egg, and the three-bordered Orion. The father thereof is the sun, the mother the moon. The wind carried it in his womb. The earth is the nurse thereof. It is the father of all works of wonder throughout the whole world. The power thereof is perfect. The emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. Now, we are finally reaching one extreme, that is, the end. If you want to watch all my content ad-free and get access to all my scripts, which include all sources used, then go ahead and check out my Patreon. I want to thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe and give it a like. Please leave a comment below. I always enjoy those. And finally, I will see you in the next broadcast, mortals.